Shocking revelation rocks Port Charles. Britt exposes Nathan's true identity as Peter August lurks behind the mask. The residents of Port Charles were left reeling in absolute shock when Dr. Britt Westburn made a discovery that would change everything they thought they knew about Nathan West's miraculous return from the dead. In a moment that will go down in General Hospital history, Britt's growing suspicions finally reached their breaking point, leading to a dramatic confrontation that exposed one of the most sinister deceptions ever conceived in the halls of General Hospital. For weeks, Britt had been struggling with an unsettling feeling about her supposed brother's return. While everyone else celebrated Nathan's resurrection as a miracle, Britt couldn't shake the sensation that something was fundamentally wrong. Her instincts, honed by years of dealing with the Faison family's twisted schemes, were screaming that the man lying in that hospital bed was not her beloved brother. The mounting suspicions. Britt's concerns began the moment she first laid eyes on Nathan in the emergency room. Unlike Liesl Obrecht, who was overcome with joy at her son's return, Britt maintained a cold, almost guarded demeanor that didn't go unnoticed by those around her. Her reluctance to embrace Nathan and her visible discomfort during their interactions sent alarm bells ringing throughout the hospital corridors. The warning signs were everywhere for those who knew how to look. When colleagues from the Port Charles Police Department visited Nathan and referenced specific cases they had worked together, his responses were vague and noncommittal. He deflected questions about their shared past, claiming his memory was still foggy from the trauma of his supposed 7-year absence. But Britt knew better. She recognized the subtle tells of someone who was performing rather than remembering. Most disturbing of all was Nathan's eager insistence on meeting his son James West. While this might seem natural for a father who had missed 7 years of his child's life, Britt sensed something darker beneath the surface. The way he looked at James, the calculated nature of their bonding over simple things like soda preferences, it all felt rehearsed, manipulated. The explosive confrontation. The tension reached its breaking point when Britt realized she could no longer stand by and watch this charade continue. As Nina Reeves, Willow, and Dante Falco Neri gathered around Nathan's bedside for what they believed was a heartwarming family reunion, Britt positioned herself strategically, waiting for the perfect moment to act. The opportunity came when the visitors were momentarily distracted by a discussion about hospital security protocols. In that critical instant, Britt moved with the precision of someone who had been planning this moment for days. Her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and determination, she approached the bed where the man claiming to be her brother lay. Without warning, Britt reached out and grasped what appeared to be Nathan's face. In one swift, decisive motion, she began pulling away what revealed itself to be an incredibly sophisticated prosthetic mask. The room fell into stunned silence. The fake facial covering came away, exposing not the familiar features of Nathan West, but the face of someone entirely different. The shocking truth revealed. As the mask fell away, the horrifying truth was finally exposed. Peter August had been masquerading as Nathan West all along, the man who had terrorized Port Charles, who had manipulated Maxie Jones and caused Nathan's original death, had somehow returned from his own supposed demise to assume his half-brother's identity. The revelation sent shockwaves through everyone present. Nina Reeves, who had been overjoyed at her brother's return, stood frozen in disbelief as the reality of the deception sank in. Willow, already struggling with her own family drama, watched in horror as another layer of lies was peeled away. Dante, the seasoned detective, immediately understood the implications of what he was witnessing. This wasn't just a case of mistaken identity, but a carefully orchestrated plan with potentially devastating consequences. Peter's desperate escape. The moment his true identity was exposed, Peter August's carefully constructed facade crumbled completely. No longer able to maintain the pretense of being the beloved Nathan West, Peter's survival instincts kicked in. Without hesitation, he bolted from the hospital bed, pushing past the stunned observers as he made his desperate escape from General Hospital. His flight from the scene confirmed what Britt had suspected all along. This had never been about a miraculous return from the dead, but rather an elaborate scheme orchestrated by one of Port Charles's most dangerous criminals. Peter's willingness to impersonate his own half-brother, to manipulate a grieving child and devastated family, revealed the true depths of his depravity. The aftermath and implications. As Peter August disappeared into the Port Charles night, the full scope of his deception began to unfold. His impersonation of Nathan wasn't just cruel, it was strategic. By assuming Nathan's identity, Peter had gained access to Maxie Jones and their son James, positioning himself to manipulate the family he had always coveted. The revelation also cast new light on Britt's recent behavior and her mysterious boss's identity. Many had speculated that her erratic actions were connected to some unknown threat, but now it became clear that she had likely discovered Peter's deception early on and had been trying to protect her family from his machinations. For Nina, Willow, and Danda, the unmasking represented a devastating betrayal of trust. They had welcomed this impostor into their lives, shared intimate family moments with him, and allowed him access to vulnerable family members like young James. The psychological trauma of realizing they had been so thoroughly deceived would leave lasting scars on everyone involved. Questions and consequences. Peter August's escape raises numerous critical questions about his ultimate goals and the extent of his deception. How long had he been planning this elaborate ruse? What other manipulations had he orchestrated while wearing Nathan's face? And most importantly, what was his endgame with Maxie and James? The sophisticated nature of the prosthetic mask suggests that Peter had access to advanced resources and possibly accomplices who helped orchestrate this deception. The DNA and fingerprint matches that had initially convinced everyone of Nathan's identity now appear to have been fabricated through means that speak to a conspiracy far more complex than anyone had imagined. As Port Charles reels from this shocking revelation, one thing is certain: Peter August's desperate flight marks not the end of this nightmare, but potentially thus the beginning. With his cover blown and his carefully laid plans in ruins, a cornered Peter August becomes an even more dangerous threat to everyone he had been manipulating. Britt's brave decision to expose the truth, despite the personal cost and the shock it would cause her loved ones, ultimately saved her family from Peter's continued manipulation. Her instincts and courage in that crucial moment prevented what could have been an even more devastating betrayal down the line. The question now becomes, where did Peter August go, and what will his next move be in this deadly game of deception and revenge that has consumed Port Charles? Next, we will learn about the intense drama unfolding in Port Charles as Ric Lansing finds himself trapped in a nightmarish captivity that could change everything for him and those around him. In the shadowy depths of Alexis Davis' basement, Ric Lansing remains bound and helpless, his wrists and ankles secured with ropes that dig into his skin, leaving him in a state of utter vulnerability amid the dust-covered boxes and forgotten relics of the Davis family home. The scene is far from glamorous. Ric's face is smeared with grime, his once sharp lawyer's attire now tattered and stained, a stark reminder of how far the mighty have fallen in this twisted tale of revenge and restraint. This predicament stems from a web of family betrayals, where Alexis, fueled by years of resentment over Ric's past manipulations, decided that locking him away was the only way to protect her daughter Christina from his scheming influence. The tension escalated dramatically during the gripping events of the October 3rd episode, where Ric, driven by sheer desperation, managed a fleeting escape that sent shockwaves through the household. Somehow slipping free from his initial bindings, perhaps by working a loose knot with his teeth or exploiting a momentary distraction, Ric lunged upward like a cornered animal, his eyes wild with fury as he snatched a gleaming dagger from a nearby shelf, its blade catching the dim light as he pressed it perilously close to Alexis' throat. The air thickened with fear. Alexis froze, her breath shallow, while Ric hissed threats about exposing all her secrets to the world, his voice a low growl that echoed off the concrete walls. In this heart-pounding moment, new layers of their fractured history emerged. Ric accused Alexis of hypocrisy, reminding her of their shared daughter Molly and how her actions now mirrored the very deceptions he had once pulled on her. But salvation came swiftly from an unlikely alliance, as Ava Jerome, Alexis' recently forged confidant, with her own vendettas against the Corinthos clan, sprang into action with fierce determination. Ava's intervention was nothing short of heroic chaos. She grabbed a steaming pot of herbal tea from the kitchen counter above brewed earlier for a late-night strategy session and hurled the scalding liquid directly into Ric's face, the hot splash eliciting a guttural scream that reverberated through the house. As Ric recoiled in agony, his grip on the dagger faltering and blisters forming on his cheeks from the herbal infusion's unexpected burn, Ava didn't hesitate further. She swung a heavy, ornate antique vase, likely an heirloom from Alexis' collection of Victorian curiosities, etched with intricate floral patterns, crashing down onto the back of his head with a resounding thud. The impact sent Ric crumpling to the floor, dazed and disoriented, his vision blurring as stars danced before his eyes, while shards of porcelain scattered like confetti from a disastrous party. This improvised counterattack not only neutralized the threat, but also highlighted Ava's street-smart instincts, honed from years of surviving in Port Charles' underworld, turning what could have been a fatal confrontation into a temporary victory for the women. With Ric momentarily subdued, Alexis and Ava worked in frantic tandem, injecting him with a sedative from Alexis' hidden medical kit, perhaps sourced from her days as a fierce advocate in custody battles, and retying him with reinforced chains this time, ensuring his restraints were far more secure against future attempts. Yet, as the dust settled in that basement lair, pressing questions linger about the sustainability of this clandestine imprisonment and its toll on Ric's well-being. How long can they keep him hidden before someone outside the trio notices his absence, especially with Port Charles' tight-knit community always buzzing with gossip and surveillance? Ric's physical state is already deteriorating. The hot liquid has left angry red welts across his face, and the blow to his head might have caused a concussion, leading to throbbing headaches and bouts of nausea that leave him retching against his bonds. More uncomfortably, the practicalities of his captivity raise eyebrows. Has anyone considered his basic human needs, like access to a bathroom or proper hydration? Or is he being forced to endure in humiliating silence, adding psychological torment to his physical suffering? While Ava, Alexis, and Christina Corinthos Davis huddle upstairs, plotting their next moves, whispering about how to leverage Ric's knowledge against Sonny's empire without drawing police attention, Ric's mind drifts into feverish dreams as the sedative wears thin. In these visions, he conjures a beacon of hope, Elizabeth Baldwin, the compassionate nurse whose gentle presence has haunted him since his return to town, a woman whose kindness stands in sharp contrast to the harsh treatment from what he bitterly dubs the witchy trio of captors. Ric's longing for Elizabeth isn't mere fancy. It's rooted in a rekindled spark that ignited upon his homecoming, where stolen glances at the hospital turned into subtle flirtations amid the chaos of emergencies and family crises. Elizabeth, with her history of healing broken souls from Jason's rugged intensity to Franco's tormented artistry, represents the stability Ric craves, a far cry from the volatile passions he's known with women like Alexis or Carly. In his subconscious wanderings, Ric imagines her descending the basement stairs like an avenging angel, her scrubs swapped for a determined expression, scissors in hand to sever his chains as she whispers assurances of safety and freedom. This dream sequence could serve as potent foreshadowing, hinting at a larger narrative arc where Elizabeth's involvement pulls her deeper into the Lansing-Davis feud, perhaps uncovering hidden alliances or long-buried family secrets that tie back to their shared past in Port Charles. Adding intrigue, Ric's supposed digital detox, a self-imposed retreat to reconnect with his primal instincts, ditching gadgets for meditation and raw reflection, begins to unravel under scrutiny, especially after a cryptic phone call that piques suspicions. Liz, ever the intuitive observer, picks up on odd static and muffled pleas during a routine chat with Alexis, her nurse's ear attuned to distress signals that others might dismiss as glitches. Elizabeth Baldwin's noble character makes her the perfect candidate to unravel this mystery and potentially rescue Ric from his ordeal. Known throughout Port Charles for her unwavering selflessness, rushing to aid strangers during crises, or supporting friends through personal hells, Liz has always prioritized compassion, even when it risks her own peace. She's acutely aware of Ric's romantic overtures, the lingering touches during checkups, and the earnest invitations to coffee that she's politely rebuffed to safeguard her heart after past heartbreaks with men like Lucky and Nicholas. Yet, her empathy doesn't waver. She senses that Ric's current plight, drugged, isolated, and at the mercy of vengeful kin, is a far cry from the redemption he seeks. And she can't ignore the pull to ensure his welfare. The episode's thrilling Friday cliffhanger amplified this tension when, mid-conversation with Alexis about hospital shifts, Liz swore she detected Ric's strained voice in the background, a desperate murmur cut short by a hasty hang-up that left her pulse racing. This auditory clue, perhaps Ric's faint cry for help slipping through before being silenced, propels Liz into sleuth mode. Envision her poring over call logs, confiding in trusted allies like Hamilton Finn for discreet advice, or even tailing Alexis to her home under the guise of a welfare check. Such an investigation could build to climactic rescue, with Liz navigating the Davis residence's labyrinth and layout, dodging creaky floorboards and prying eyes to locate the basement and free Ric in a scene ripe with emotional revelations and narrow escapes. In this scenario, Elizabeth emerges not just as Ric's literal savior, but as his emotional anchor, transforming their flirtation into something profound and enduring, where shared vulnerability forges an unbreakable bond. Imagine the aftermath: Ric, bandaged and grateful, opening up about his detox journey's failures and his genuine desire for change, while Liz grapples with the ethics of her involvement, potentially straining ties with Alexis but strengthening her own resolve. This development elevates Liz to Ric's ultimate dream woman, embodying rescue, understanding, and a fresh start amid Port Charles' endless drama. If Elizabeth does discover and liberate Ric from this basement nightmare, how do fans envision their path forward? Will a Lick romance blossom into heartfelt commitment? Or should they navigate towards separate destinies with other suitors to avoid reigniting old conflicts? Next, we will learn about the explosive developments shaking up Port Charles, from shocking investigations to family feuds that could tear the Quartermaine legacy apart. In the wake of a bombshell ballistics analysis last week, the firearm once belonging to the legendary Edward Quartermaine has been confirmed as the deadly instrument that targeted Drew Kane in a brazen assassination attempt. This revelation has sent ripples through the entire town, prompting the Port Charles Police Department (PCPD) to intensify their probe with unexpected vigor. As detectives piece together the timeline, the trail unexpectedly veers toward the quiet confines of Elizabeth Weber's home, where Anna Devane arrives with unyielding determination. "I've secured a warrant to thoroughly examine these premises," Anna declares firmly, her voice echoing the gravity of the situation. As officers prepare to comb every corner for clues that might link the weapon's history to the present-day chaos, Elizabeth, caught off guard while tending to her daily routines, stands in stunned silence, her medical scrubs a stark reminder of her demanding life at the hospital. The connection here seems tenuous at first glance. After all, Elizabeth, improminently listed among the prime suspects on the PCPD's sprawling investigation board, which prominently features heavy hitters like Carly Corinthos, Nina Reeves, Michael Corinthos, Willow Tate, and Curtis Ashford. Yet, whispers among the force suggest her proximity to the Quartermaine circle and her long-standing ties to key players could be the thread pulling her into this web. Could overlooked evidence from Edward's era, perhaps a hidden correspondence or a forgotten family heirloom stashed in her possession, be the missing link? As the search unfolds, Elizabeth's composure cracks just enough to hint at buried secrets from her past, forcing viewers to question if her innocent facade hides deeper involvement in the escalating drama. Delving deeper into the motives behind this raid, one can't ignore the intriguing shadow of Willow Tate, who has recently sought refuge under Elizabeth's roof amid her own turbulent battles with health and family strife. Willow's relocation stems from a desperate need for stability post her leukemia treatments, turning Elizabeth's home into a makeshift sanctuary away from the prying eyes of the Corinthos clan. This living arrangement raises eyebrows. Does the PCPD suspect that conversations overheard or items exchanged between the two women might illuminate the shooting's origins. Elizabeth's role as a confidant to Willow, combined with her historical entanglements in Port Charles' underworld, positions her as an unwitting conduit in the investigation. Imagine the tension: officers rifling through personal drawers, uncovering old photos of shared hospital shifts or notes from therapy sessions that inadvertently tie back to the Quartermaine arsenal. This scenario not only amplifies Elizabeth's vulnerability, but also spotlights the fragile alliances in Port Charles, where loyalty can swiftly morph into liability. As Anna's team uncovers potential leads, the spotlight inevitably shifts toward Willow herself, whose nursing expertise and access to medical records could provide forensic insights into the bullet's trajectory or the shooter's intent. Thematically, this plot thread explores themes of unintended consequences, where personal choices like offering shelter to a friend collide with the unforgiving machinery of justice, leaving no one unscathed. Shifting gears to a moment of apparent reconciliation laced with suspicion, Michael Corinthos delivers a jaw-dropping proposition to his estranged wife, Willow. In a charged encounter at the hospital corridors, Michael pulls Willow aside, his expression a mix of remorse and resolve. "Willow, I insist you come home and spend time with the kids. They miss you more than words can say," he urges, his words hanging heavy in the air. Willow's eyes widen in disbelief, her scrubs rumpled from a long shift, as she processes this olive branch from a man who spent months entangled in corporate wars and family betrayals. On the surface, it appears as a genuine bid for peace, a chance to mend the fractures caused by Michael's ruthless business tactics and Willow's protective instincts toward their children. Perhaps this stems from Michael's recent epiphany after witnessing Willow's resilience against her illness, prompting him to prioritize family over vendettas against his mother Carly or Aunt Nina. Beneath this heartfelt plea lurks an undercurrent of strategy. Michael's history of calculated moves suggests he might be leveraging Willow's vulnerability to gain leverage in ongoing custody disputes or to extract information about the Drew shooting. Given Willow's insider knowledge through her medical network, what if Michael's invitation is a ploy to monitor Willow's interactions at the Quartermaine mansion, where whispers of the will reading could spill secrets about inherited assets tied to the gun? This layered dynamic adds psychological depth, portraying Michael not just as a reformed husband, but as a chess master navigating emotional minefields for ultimate control. The Quartermaine household erupts into pandemonium during the highly anticipated reading of Monica Quartermaine's last will and testament, a ceremony fraught with emotion and explosive revelations. Tracy Quartermaine, ever the fiery matriarch, unleashes her fury with a thunderous outburst. "Over my dead body will that happen," she bellows, slamming her fist on the ornate table laden with legal documents and family heirlooms. The room, already thick with anticipation, freezes as Tracy's reaction hints at a clause that threatens the very foundation of Quartermaine dominance. Rumors swirl that the contested element revolves around the iconic family mansion, a sprawling estate symbolizing generations of power and intrigue. Monica's bequest might redistribute control of the property to an unforeseen beneficiary, perhaps favoring charitable causes or long-estranged relatives over the core family, igniting fears of dilution in their legacy. Tracy's meltdown isn't isolated. It cascades into shockwaves affecting everyone present. Brooke Lynn Quartermaine, poised with her usual poise, gasps audibly, her hand flying to her mouth as the implications dawn. Losing the house could upend her budding music career and personal stability, forcing her to confront her own precarious position within the dynasty. Adding to the drama is the appearance of Monica's long-lost sister, Veronica, an enigmatic figure emerging from obscurity with claims of shared blood and untold stories from Monica's youth. Veronica's wide-eyed astonishment mirrors the family's, but her presence introduces fresh layers. Did she harbor resentments from a sibling rivalry spanning decades? Or does she bring evidence that could validate or dismantle the will's provisions? This gathering transforms into a psychological battlefield where grief mingles with greed, exposing fault lines in the Quartermaine armor and foreshadowing alliances that could realign Port Charles' elite forever. As the dust settles from the will reading, The narrative circles back to the relentless pursuit of truth in the Drew Kane shooting, pulling Elizabeth deeper into the fray. Portia Robinson, Elizabeth's steadfast colleague and friend, stands by her side in the dimly lit living room, offering silent support as Anna Devane presents a pivotal piece of evidence. "What exactly is that item you're holding?" Elizabeth inquires, her voice steady but laced with apprehension. While Portia's protective stance underscores the bond forged in the high-stakes world of General Hospital, Anna, accompanied by a burly officer whose presence adds an air of intimidation, reveals what appears to be the incriminating revolver Edward's gun, its barrel etched with the patina of age and infamy. Now central to the case against Drew's assailant, the weapon's discovery in or near Elizabeth's home raises harrowing questions. Was it planted as a frame job by a vengeful foe? Or does it signify a careless oversight from a past confrontation involving Quartermaine artifacts? Anna's next words cut through the tension. "Elizabeth, we'd appreciate it if you joined us at the station for a formal interview." This invitation, phrased with professional courtesy, belies the underlying pressure. It's not an arrest, but the prelude to intense questioning that could unravel Elizabeth's alibis and connections. The interrogation's ripple effects extend far beyond Elizabeth, honing in on Willow as the net tightens around the inner circle. How swiftly will Anna pivot from Elizabeth's statements to Willow's role, probing her whereabouts on the night of the shooting and any overlaps with the suspect's timelines? Willow's nursing background equips her with knowledge of wound ballistics, potentially making her a key witness or unwitting accessory if she's overheard discussions about the gun's provenance. The preview's closing frames amplify the suspense. Carly Corinthos appears utterly devastated, her fierce demeanor crumbling as tears streak her face, perhaps upon learning that her past decisions have implicated loved ones in the scandal. Meanwhile, Willow, still in her crisp scrubs, stares in wide-eyed shock, clutching a chart as if it's her lifeline. Could this be the moment she realizes her safe haven with Elizabeth is compromised, thrusting her back into the fray with Michael and the children? These visuals craft a tapestry of impending doom, where personal redemption clashes with collective downfall, leaving fans breathless for the fallout in Port Charles' most perilous chapter yet.